I want to thank everybody for being here. Without your interest and concern, we all go unheard. My name is Dennis Littleton, and as of August 22nd, this is year number 26 since this nightmare started. I should not be here. The victim told officers on the scene a car full of white guys shot him and his friend. So, I mean, how did they get a warrant for a 6'2" black guy?
But it's kind of hard to see someone in there like that for so long. But you start to get numb to it, but it's not the normal. You know, it's not normal.
He essentially was kidnapped. You know what I mean? He's literally in there for something he didn't do.
The altercation took place around midnight of May 30th, 2000.
I was at the house off Toledo and Hubbard. We ran it like a little business, but it was like we took care of each other. We looked out for each other, and we was like a family too. There was an argument outside.
Robert Johnstone arrived outside of 2197 Hubbard and was angrily shouting for a friend of his to come out of the house. An argument then ensued between Johnstone and the owners of the house. Saul Rios, another friend of Johnstone's, was sent outside to try and calm him down. The two of them got into Johnstone's car and drove down the block. Moments later, another car pulled up alongside them. Someone got out of the car and shot them both. A key piece of evidence missing from Dennis's trial was the testimony of Dana Hudson, supporting that Dennis was out of town at the time of the shooting. Dennis and Dana left from Detroit, heading to Madison, Wisconsin at 6 p.m. on the 29th of May. At the time of the shooting, Dennis and Dana were more than 6 hours away from Detroit. Since trial, Dana has provided a signed affidavit corroborating the timeline of events.
You can't judge a situation unless you really been there. I was really there, and he really wasn't.
One thing for certain, I know I wasn't on that block.
I talked to him on his way out of town hours before that night.
DeMond Jones got on the stand and said, well, hey, I knew he was out of town because he told me he had to go and pick money up. They stopped Mr. Jones on the stand and said, hey, you can't do that. You can't do that because Kerry Jackson never filed an alibi notice.
They wouldn't let none of that in court.
The choice to not have an alibi in this case meant effectively that it was 3 witnesses against 1.
I felt like it was a sham from the beginning. Even in the courtroom, my trial attorney, he made a big fuss about them not turning over all the records to us. Judge Vonda Evans, she asked Patrick Muscat, hey, what is he talking about? You know, he's saying he doesn't have these records. And he said, well, to be honest, Your Honor, he never got the entire files. We gave him some reports, but he never got the files. How can you possibly win a game when someone is taking pieces off the chessboard or they're sticking cards in their pocket?
I think there's some very significant violations in there that at least undermine that the prosecution even put on a fair trial to begin with.
You can never have a proper trial without all the information. I can never exonerate myself. I can never push for my innocence. I just can't do it.
Saul Rios, the victim, had told police the shooter was a white guy that they got into it with at the house.
All the reports that were done that night, he talked to the ambulance workers and said he got into it with some people earlier that day, and the same people came back and shot him up. White guys, a car full of white guys.
The whole scenario changes when the corrupt officer named Jimenez starts taking statements. The suspect changed from white to a black guy.
Suddenly, Some of the strongest evidence of Dennis's innocence was turned into evidence of his guilt. And this was after the officer, Moises Jimenez, spoke with the victim in private in a conversation that was not recorded.
A lot of people told me that Jimenez was on their case, so I hope that that justice be brought to him for all the people that he convicted.
I spent almost 16 years incarcerated for a crime that I did not commit. Later finding out the level of misconduct that was associated with Detective Jimenez, it's appalling. What happened to us is literally a perfect example of what happens when you give the wrong people too much power.
To go from a white shooter to a black shooter is not a small change. We're really looking for what is the thing that the witness said closest to the time of the event, before there's any chance of memory loss or contamination from other sources. What are they saying initially?
Oftentimes what we'll see is police officers leaning on witnesses and coercing them to provide false information. Oftentimes they'll end up perjuring themselves in a court of law.
The main piece of evidence that I think was probably most compelling to the jury was the testimony of Saul Rios, and now he has recanted. In fact, he's completely changed his testimony that it wasn't Dennis Littleton.
So Saul Rios did speak to us about the night of the shooting, and he described to us what had happened that night. And when he described the shooting itself, he said that he had recognized the shooter and that the shooter was not Dennis Littleton.
He was willing to come forward with the truth. After all these years, he feels like he's unburdening himself. He knew who the actual killer was, what his name was. He has said he known him for years and years.
Those detectives, that prosecutor, the judge that sat there and allowed this to happen, every one of those backstops fit. Every single one of them.
I think that especially during the 90s and into the 2000s, the Detroit Police Department had a reputation for employing a lot of dirty cops who were involved in law enforcement misconduct and wrongful convictions.
And the police were chaotic. Like the 4th precinct, everything there was dirty. Everything there was dirty. The windows was dirty, the fucking floors dirty, the people dirty, coffee dirty, everything is dirty in there.
Jimenez specifically was very, very aggressive.
I was terrified that they were just gonna drag me off one day, like they did him.
I hate to say, but this case is one of many. The system has taken literally the bulk of my life.
I remember racing each other on bikes. And then who would have thought at 50 years old we would be in this position?
During these years, I've had to watch my daughter grow up without a father and now without a mother as well. I've lost all my elder family members, and without my sister, honestly, I'd be completely lost.
It's just been a rough road, for us, while he's been gone, because he's missed a lot of things, a lot of family events, funerals, birthdays, weddings.
When a person is serving time, they're not doing it alone. I witnessed how it impacted my aunt, his mom, Sandra Littleton. And I just saw the pain that she experienced years after his incarceration.
He's been behind bars for over 20 years for something he didn't do, so we want to see Dennis come home.
When we talk about gaining freedom, it's the small things that I miss. Being able to go out at night and look at the sky, see the stars, because I haven't been out at night in forever. It's been a lot of years.
No matter what comes out at the end of this, at the end of the day, understand that one of the most daunting feelings in the world is to be the only person in the room that knows you're right.